In this video we will create a leather texture using nodes only. This will be in cycles, and you want to make sure you have Node Wrangler on. This is Edit, Preferences, and you can find it under Add-ons. So we're going to start with adding a cylinder, so Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder, 32 vertices, 0.1 radius and 0.1 depth. Go to Edit mode, Control R, add 5 edge loops, and delete the top and bottom faces. Now back to object mode, Control 1 to add subdivision, add a solidify modifier, thickness 0.005, add a bevel modifier with 2 segments, and shade smooth. Now I'm gonna add light, so Shift A, light point, set the value to 25 watts and 0.15 radius, move it up the z-axis GZ 0.7, and I'm gonna duplicate this, Shift D, and move one to on the x-axis 1 meter GX1 and the other one GY1. 7 on the numpad for orthographic top view. I'm gonna duplicate this one and create this triangle here, and move this one down GZ minus 1.4. I'm going to change the value for this one to be bluish and this one to be yellowish. I have the world settings at 0.4 value, and I'm gonna start by adding a new material. Call it leather, and we'll start with a leather pattern, so I'm gonna add a Voronoi texture. Control T, change it to distance to edge, and the scale 9.8, and I'll add a color ramp, plug it in. I'll change this value to 0.043, saturation 0.91, and value 0.052. I'm gonna change this one to 0.055, 0.89 and 0.17 value. Pressing Ctrl Shift and clicking the color ramp and moving to cycles, changing to cycles, then we can see what we have. Now I'm gonna join those together, so Ctrl J, change it, change the color. Press F2 and rename it leather pattern. Now I'm gonna add a geometry node, so Shift A, add a geometry, plug it into a color ramp, plug the pointiness, change the color ramp to ease, the dark value position to 0.505, the white to 0.516. And to see this, you can Control Shift click it. This is the pointiness values. Gonna add a map range, change it to smoother step, and values minus 0.24, 1.04, 0.18, and 0.42. Now I'm going to add a math node, change it to power, and the value to 2.68. Now I'm going to add a noise texture, Control T, scale 11.6 and leave the rest like that. Add a mix node, change it to color, plug the noise factor to the B socket, plug the math node to the factor, and change the color here to black. So this is the noise texture, this is combined with the pointiness. And now we're going to group those all together, so Control G. And I'm going to add this to the output here and just switch them together and change their position. So the top one would be pointiness, and the bottom one is noise with the pointiness, so it will be noisiness. Pressing tab, now we're out of the group, but I'm still gonna Control J to add a frame. And we'll call it F2 pointiness noise. Now we're gonna add a big noise, so we got something more general. So noise texture, Control Shift click it, Control T, and just change the scale to 2. Join those together, Control J, change the color, F2, rename it, name it big noise. Now I'm gonna move this down here and Control right click, click and drag, so we cut this line here, and we're gonna add a color ramp. Change this one to cardinal, dark value to 0.05 U, 0.835 saturation, 0.015 value, and the white one 0.055 U, 0.9 saturation, 0.39 value, and this one position at 0.18. Duplicate this, change it to B-spline, this one all the way up, and this one would be at position 0.53 with value of 0.05, just like this one. This one will change to 0.85 and value 0.017, and this one stays the same. Adding a new color ramp, change it to cardinal, dark value to 0.35, bright one to 0.8, and the position for the white color is 0.073. Click the plus button to add another one in between in a position of 0.012 with value of 0.57. Now we're gonna plug the noisiness to the first one and the last one here. Shift and right mouse button click and drag, so you combine those together, and plug the big noise to the middle one using the factor. Now to see what we have here, Control Shift click this color ramp, and this is just the noise. You can see what we have here. I'm gonna mix those together. So Shift A, add a mix, change it to color, plug the top one to the A socket and the second one to the B socket. Control Shift click to see what we have. I'm going to change the factor to be 0.135. I'm gonna duplicate this one. Plug this mix to the B socket and the leather pattern to the A socket. Change it from mix to add. Control Shift click to see what we have. I'm going to use the pointiness as the factor. So drag it all the way up here. And Shift and right mouse button click and drag just to organize things a bit more. And now I'm going to plug this into the base color. You can Control Shift click this, but we still don't have the roughness. So we're going to do that now. I'm going to move this to the side. Shift A at the color ramp. Change it to ease. Dark value will be 0.35 and the white would be 0.8. In position 0.1. Plug this mix node to the factor. Add another mix node, change it to color. Plug this to the A socket. And this color ramp here to the B socket. Leave it at 0.5 value and plug it into the roughness. Now I'm just going to quickly remove the overlays here in the viewport. One last thing we need to add here is a bump. So Shift A, add a bump node. We're going to add two color ramps. So color ramp, duplicate, change the first one to cardinal, white flag position at 0.4. Over here change to B-spline, dark flag position at 0.26 and the white at 0.49. Moving those back here. Plug the noisiness to the first one and the big noise to the bottom one. Control Shift click to see what we have. This is the top one, this is the bottom one. I'm gonna mix those together. Change it to color. First one to A, second one to B. Control Shift click and plug this into the height. Change the strength to 0.1. I'm going to duplicate this bump node, plug the normal to the normal, and we're going to plug this pattern here to the height of the second bump node. So from here to the height. And plug the bump normal to normal. Control J. Change the color. F2, rename it. Name it bump. And I'm just going to organize this a little bit. Control Shift click the principal BSDF to see what we have. Now I'm just going to change the specular to 0.4 value. And go to sculpt mode and start moving things around. So you see that the places that it's more sticking out, it looks more rough and more worn, which is how you would expect that from leather material to be. And that's really nice. You can play around with that. And this would work on any material, any object, I mean, and but you might need to tweak some settings. So the settings you might want to change, that could be the scale here. So if your object is in different size and you want a different size, different scale, you might want to change this. Or you can try different factors between the mixes, or inside this group. This would make a lot of difference if you play around with this. So feel free to experiment and see what you get.